Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Steve, welcome back to Friday at 4. How are you, buddy?
All right, Chuck, doing well. And yourself?
Hanging in there. Another,
It's a good thing.
another weather week.
Ugh, that time of the year, weather's
Yeah,
so unpredictable.
yeah, especially on the East Coast, here in this
Yeah,
mid-Atlantic.
it is.
You're part of that. Yeah,
And we have no say in what happens. We know that. So,
got that right. Yep.
yeah.
So, one thing we haven't really dug into yet on Friday at 4 is the challenge of hiring and keeping good people in small businesses. A lot of owners are feeling the pinch, right? Whether it's finding reliable employees.
Yeah.
We're dealing with constant turnover, that drains time and money, right? I'd love to hear your take on how the financial side of this plays out. What are the hidden costs of poor hiring decisions? What should business owners be doing financially to make sure that they're setting up a team that not only performs well, but wants to stay? What do you think?
It's a great
I
topic.
know, right?
It's a great question. I got to think about that because there's so much in there that to
Yeah.
unpack. Um, so I've been in business, and I've said this numbers of times. I've been in corporate world for 32 years, had my own business, and in the corporate world, I rose up pretty high in a couple of companies. And what typically happens, and I stress typically happens,
That's the key
is
word,
people
typically, right?
typically say that three times fast. Okay.
Said it three times fast, right?
Um, People apply for a job and they go on an interview and they do whatever they do, and hopefully they get the job. They go to work, they do their thing, some cases Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, depending on your shift and whatnot. But you come in, you do your thing, you go home, you get paid. Monday morning, wash, rinse, repeat. You're back to the job, you do your thing, you get paid, et cetera, et cetera.
Boring.
But, well, okay, but that's kind of not where I was going with this. But yes,
I know,
that
right?
is true. Uh,
Right.
but what typically happens is the average person, and I was one of them, and I'm going to call myself the worker bee. So you're at
Yeah.
the bottom doing the work. You're not in various levels of management. So that's my definition. And there's nothing wrong with it because I was there too. Um, and because you're in that bottom worker bee mode, you do your thing, you go home, and you come back and you do it again. You never really understand, nor are you supposed to understand because you're not told all the different things that make up. They posted a job, you applied for the job, you interviewed for the job, maybe you got either denied or accepted. People are not in the know of what that whole thing takes. And I am going somewhere with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but as you get, or not so you, but general statement, as you get higher up in and you start getting into the hiring and the whole budgeting and the whole HR piece, we realize that there's so much more to be done. So every role in every company, whether it is a company, a corporate, whether it's a sole business, a sole proprietorship, a small business, whatever it is, every role, every position has every role has a job description, salary range, and all those things. So when they go out and they hire, they're looking to say, okay, I need a person with this skill set in this salary range with this experience, and they throw the net out. So sometimes they do it themselves corporate wise. Sometimes they use a job search engine like Indeed or something else. And that's fine. I'm not saying good or bad. That's what they do.
Sure.
But as you continue to rise up, you realize the costs. associated with placing the ad, the time invested by the person or persons doing the interview, the time it's going to take to hire the person, put them through the whole HR process, the training, the background check. All those costs are part of a company doing business. And the costs associated with that, without question, are in some fashion passed through to the cost of the goods and services the company sells because they got to make up the time that they're spending interviewing and training and stuff.
Yeah.
But as a person continues to rise up through the ranks, the the salary, the benefits, the health care, all those things, the bonus, all those things continue to add to the cost of a person, which is understandable. Now, if you're in a real generic industry and there's a million people that can fill that job, great. But if you're in an industry where that particular job description is more and more unique, less and less people can fill it, now the costs continue to rise and sometimes pretty exponentially. The challenge the company has is what can you offer to that employee or potential employee to not only want to interview with your company, but accept an offer if they're given and to remain long term. So, what can you give that person? And I'm going through this now, and I'll go through that in a second. You can offer them potentially a sign on bonus. You can potentially offer them a higher salary, but you got to be careful with all this stuff because then you start getting into, your company wants the same person my company wants, and they get into a bidding war. It's like what's going on with houses. Multiple people want the same house, the
Yes.
price goes up. Well, it's the same thing
Keeps
with
going.
talent. A
Right.
really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was responding. Yeah, you're nailing it. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so the talent that's out there, there is a demand for it. So again, what do you offer? The sign-on bonus, the salary, the benefits. Higher level, you may need to provide stock options.
Yeah.
You may need to be, and I'm not sure. I think it's called, and again, I'm going to mess it up, but basically, it's a highly compensated employee, and maybe that's the term I'm looking for. It's a highly compensated, which means you're sitting pretty high up, getting extra stuff that nobody else in the company is getting, other than like the owner. But how much do you give a person? And then there's always that question of, I hope they stay, I hope they stay, I hope they stay, because there's
Yes.
no guarantee.
Yeah.
Because if somebody comes to work in my company and all of a sudden one day, they're having a bad day and they meet Chuck, and Chuck says, "Psst, Steve, I got something for you." Chuck makes the offer to Steve. Steve says, "I like you." He turns around to his current company and says, "Bye bye," gives the 2 week notice, and he's gone. And that
True.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
So how
Hey,
do you,
quick question. Do you think, and I don't want to get off track, and I'm not trying because of time here, but I'm just when you mentioned about the sign-on bonus, do you think that's really something that's good? Because you see sign-on bonuses a lot everywhere. Is it becoming watered down? Do you think that's something people are like, yeah, sign-on bonus? There's so catch to it, right?
so a couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Many companies do offer a sign-on bonus because again, the economy's not great, but there are a limited number of people for specific jobs. Anybody can, and I'm not saying this to put anybody down. Anybody can sweep a floor, anybody can make a burger, but not everybody can program a computer. Not everybody can build a spaceship. So depending on that particular job function, there may be a limited pool of people. So the sign-on bonus, to a certain extent, is expected.
The reason I mention that is because you see
And
it all the time in the trucking industry, with all these sign-on bonus for trucking, it's trucking, you know. All companies are probably the same, but just paying different, is you're driving a truck across the country,
okay, however, okay. So to your point, and that's a great point, but I will tell you, I had for many years a commercial driver's license. And I drove for several different limousine companies, and I would drive the big buses. So, to weddings, to wherever they would go, and, 30, 40, 50 people on a bus. And it is very difficult to pass the written test, the road test. It's very difficult. And even though there's millions of people that would like to work, a handful get to that through that whole process. And last year, because I had hurt my shoulder, and I won't get into the details, but I had hurt my shoulder and I gave up my license. When I went to the motor vehicle department and I said, "This is what I'm here today for," and she looked at the form and she said, "You want to give up your commercial driver's license?" And I said, "Yes, I can't drive. I don't have full mobility in my shoulder. I can't put people at risk by not being able to grab both hands on the steering wheel." And she asked me like three, four times, "You sure you want to do this? You sure you want to do this?" And I finally looked at her and I said, "Yes, I know it's hard to get. Yes, in the last couple of years, the tests have gotten even more challenging, but I can't do it anymore. And I'm giving up the license and I'm not renewing it." And she finally said, "Okay." But it's that point of truckers are the same way. You have many trucking companies and they cannot, let me just, sorry, I gotta plug my phone in, my laptop in. Um, there are many companies out there who cannot find enough drivers. And if you don't have enough drivers, merchandise can't get from the port, off the ship, off the plane to the stores or the warehouses it's going to. Then
Yeah.
the whole economy starts to suffer. So limousine companies, trucking companies, they all need to figure out what they can do to bring the available small pool of available people in. They may give them a bonus. They may say, "I'm going to cap you at 40 or 50 hours a week instead of the 80 some people are driving." There's all kinds of different things that can be done, and companies have to start getting creative. Now, what companies that I've seen, and again, I cannot tell you this is across the board, but companies I've seen have said, "I will give you X dollars as a sign on bonus, but you have to stay at least 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. You can't take my sign on bonus and be out the door in 30 days because then you do
Uh,
that to this company and this company and this company. Can't do that."
and a lot of times those bonuses are tied on to, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months to a year. So
Right,
they will ensure they get you for what they need the value out of you.
right,
So you get that bonus, but you're going to get
right.
it over time, right?
Correct, correct. And
Yeah.
that is the best way to keep an employee around.
And that's why I
It,
mentioned it because I know this ties directly into what you're talking about, because trying to find ways to hire talent and find this talent, I always thought about those bonuses because I never worked for a company to experience that sign-on bonus, and what it was about. And I never had a chance to talk to anybody about it, to say, "Hey, tell me about that sign-on bonus." I never had a chance, and your explanation is pretty
yeah,
good. So thank you.
I did. I worked, a couple of companies gave me a sign-on bonus. I mean, it wasn't huge, but it was still a
Yeah,
sign-on bonus, and it's nice to get this check.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, the taxes you pay on it are a totally different discussion, but it's nice to
Let's
get
not
that
talk
check.
taxes right now. I was
Yeah.
doing good till you mentioned the word taxes. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, thanks. But one of the things that I'm going through now, which I alluded to earlier on, is I'm working with a gentleman, and again, I'm not going to start naming names, but it's super, super guy, and he's putting a team together to work with businesses who are looking for funding. And I'm going to tie this all back to the whole talent piece.
Sure.
Now, based on these few companies, and I understand it's fairly widespread, a business needs money. Could be for a new piece of a machinery, could be inventory, could be whatever they need it for.
Mm,
They take their package, what I'm going to call pre-funding, my word, and they're going to go to the lender, multiple types of lenders. The lender looks at the package and basically says nicely, no.
no,
Sometimes they're not so nice, but they say no,
not going to do it.
not going to do this. So now the business takes the package back. They need money. They've been told no. What do they do?
Yeah.
So a gentleman that I'm working with has built a team, and part of that team is to look and make sure that the package that goes to the lender is in a better position so they have a better chance of getting the funding.
Nice.
Part of that review of the package is the financials, which somebody else does. And part of that package is looking at the talent. Who is in senior management? Who's in those key positions? What's their skill set? How long have they been there? What programs does the business have to retain the talent? Um, and they and then they look at the customer mix and some other things. And then they take that package once it's in a better position, and then they go over to the lender and say, okay, now take a look at it. And because they've done all that upfront work and it represents in a better position how the company really is, now the lender has a better chance of saying yes, or let me then present it for funding. Because the lender, the initial person you see, doesn't make the decision. They have get into underwriting and all the things that go with it.
Yeah.
But there's a better chance of getting funding if you present a better package.
Mm,
So and I'm part of that. And I do where I insure the lives of the business owners or the partners. So that gives the lender a better feeling that if something happens to them, the loan will be paid back. That's my piece of
right.
it, the financial side.
Right.
But that's the part of the talent piece is who's there, how long have they been there, what's their skills, um, what if they left? Would the business fold? Would a key customer go away? Would a key
Yeah.
provider stop giving them whatever tools or services they need so they can continue helping their customers? So there's all
Mm,
kinds of things that go into the talent. Now, to go a step further, I have read, and I will tell you not recently, but I have read, let's call it a year, 2 years ago, that if a key person leaves the company and it's a higher, well, I'll make the statement. It's anywhere between 40 and 60% um, on top of the salary and bonus and things that you need to bring in a new person. So if a person's making 100,000 and they quit, it's going to cost you between 140 and 160 to bring somebody new in.
yeah.
Because you have to, again, you have to go through the hiring process and the training process. And then the person that left, they had all the connections. They knew the people in the company. They knew who to go to get things done. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes on that then says, how much does it really cost me to keep, to hire and keep a person long term? And if you have multiple people, it could get very, very expensive.
And that ties to my side too, with QAC team, when you hire this talent, you
Mhm.
you assess them, keep the business running smoothly by looking at your business from the quality side. So it kind of helps run things smooth. So you don't have to worry about hiring extra talent, spending that money on somebody new when you're retaining that talent you have, like the trucking industry. You got a sign-on bonus, you're going to have a good employee. They're going to run for you for a year or whatever that term is. They get that bonus. You're saving money. He's making money. The company's good. Employee's happy.
It's a cycle. It's a
Yeah.
vicious cycle.
I was gonna say it
It
could be a
really
vicious
is.
cycle too,
It
right?
really
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
My brother-in-law, I can't say which one, but he worked for many, 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 many years for one of the auto companies. And he, excuse me, he wasn't necessarily he was like on the used car lot towards the end. Excuse me. But the salespeople in the office, they build up a reputation. They have people every couple of years come back for a new car, a new car, a new car, used car, new car, whatever. But they have that reputation and people follow them. If that salesperson goes to another company, another dealership, all those people that followed him will follow him out the door. So if that person sold 100 cars a year, just throwing a number out, they sold 100 cars a year, that existing dealership no longer has that 100 cars a year because your key salesperson got up, went bye bye, and walked across the street to the next dealership.
yeah,
And it's the same thing with any business. If a key customer is there, if Chuck's, well, I should say if Chuck's a great guy and Chuck rises up in a company, makes all these great relationships with a particular customer or two or three, or with a particular vendor, they like him, they give him special deals. Chuck gets up and moves across the street to the next company. Those customers could move with him. Those vendors could move because they have the intro into the new company. But now that Chuck moved, they have no reason to be so nice to the old company. So the rates may go up. They may slow down the delivery of whatever they're delivering. All kinds of stuff goes on. That's why those key people, it's not just senior management, it's key people. Um,
let's think about that, right? Think about this. Let's take that example of the car dealer, right? You got one employee who's probably making, I don't know, let's say 50,000 a year, right? Now you took that employee that he just left your company to go across the street. He was selling 100 cars a year, right? Average sale of a car, 18,000, right? So you're looking at a good chunk of change right now. He's gone.
Mhm.
So now your company has lost X amount of dollars from that one employee who was selling those cars.
Correct.
Now your company has to spend money to find that talent, hire somebody else, get them in the door to get up to speed to sell those 100 cars a year. So people really have to look at it from a bigger picture, right? From the
Yep.
financial, as
Yep.
it's going to cost you a lot of money if you
Right.
can't retain a good employee
Right.
when they up and leave. It's a huge undertaking, and
It
it's a
is.
big loss
It
of
is.
revenue
It
to
is.
really try to get your business back on
Yep.
track.
And what is not even in the financials is if Chuck, sorry, I'm using you as the example, if Chuck gets up and walks across the street, yes, you may be able to go out and bring on somebody new to replace Chuck. But do you really know who Chuck is? Do you know his reputation? Do you know what he's really going to do? Is he honest? Is he reliable? You don't know.
Yeah,
You
a whole side of that
truly
that you
don't
don't
know.
know. Yeah,
I mean, yes, you can go out and you can get references and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when Chuck's in this new company and he's under fire, how does he react? He still doesn't know the other people in the business, in the company. He's still trying to make his own reputation. You're going to be
Yeah.
nice. You're going to undercut. You're going to do the right thing. You're going to take shortcuts. Pardon my phrase, it's a crapshoot. You don't
Well,
know.
I
You
drove
can
by a
hope.
car dealer. I drove by a car dealer the other day and it was completely closed down. Everything was gone.
Mm,
And I asked my friend, I said, well, what happened there? And they say, oh, they were doing shady business.
there you go.
They got caught, lost their sales license and everything, shut them down. Amazing.
With what's going on today, and again, I was brought up. My parents never went to college. My father was in World War II. And I was raised the right, thankfully, I was raised the right way with a good work ethic, do the right thing 100% of the time, and respect and courtesy and all those things. But when it comes to money, sometimes, thankfully, not often, but sometimes people could take the short way out, the quick way out.
Quick
And
way.
and
Yeah.
with years, and I use this as an example, high level. Years and years ago, technology was around. It always was, just not as good as it is today. And you could do a lot of things because this system didn't talk to this system, which didn't talk to that system. So if you wanted to skirt and do something, you could because they weren't tied together.
Yeah.
Now, the way things are working, everything electronically feeds everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you go in to buy something, oh, you're charging your credit card, it's going to go into your credit score. It's going to go into your bank. It's going to go to the IRS. It's going to go here. It's going to go there. Everything you do. So the potential to try to do something that may not be above board, you're opening yourself up for people to catch that.
Yeah.
I need to say the government's not stupid. They're not. They know exactly what they're doing. So, again, I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just telling you my experience. Okay, me.
What you
Um,
experienced, and that's
I
real life,
I would
Yeah.
rather do the right thing, maybe make that little bit less, maybe pay that little bit more of taxes, but I'm not going to have the IRS knocking on my door. I'm not going to have somebody else knocking on my door going, "Oh, I'm here to serve you because I need to search your house." I'm not going to have the repo truck or the tow truck pulling up, towing my car out of my driveway. I'm not doing anything stupid to get to that point. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
My mind, I'm not telling people again, I'm not telling people what to do. Um, if you want to do the right thing, you want to work hard, there are opportunities out there. There are. There are no quick get rich quick schemes. There aren't. Don't look for them because they don't exist.
Oh, they exist on TikTok. Come on, people talk about it all the time.
I'm not even going there. Okay.
Exactly. It's interesting. It
It
really is.
is. It
It's
is.
very interesting.
There's,
I like it. You're not going to get rich quick. You got to work hard. Finding that right talent is going to be difficult, but I
yeah.
think the main thing here is to
Mhm.
assess your business, assess your employees, keep in touch with them.
Yep.
Um, you know, get into their mind, see where they're at, so you can retain that talent, so you're not stuck
Yep. Hmm.
trying to hire, train, and
Correct.
catch back up when a good employee finally does leave your business, right?
Right. The best thing that can be done, and I did this many, many years ago in corporate, find what people and ask them, what do they want?
Yeah.
Don't assume anything. Ask them what they want. Do they want to learn a new skill set? Do they want to go to a different department? Um, do they want a promotion? Whatever they're looking to do, give them the ability to do.
Yep.
If they choose not to, that's on them.
Yep.
But if they do, what you've gained is a more loyal employee who will likely work harder and get more results because they've told you, you've given them the opportunity, they've
Right.
taken it, and they got the new skill, the new transfer, they've got the promotion. It's not going to happen overnight. They have to work for it. But
Yeah.
the end result of all this stuff, they're not leaving. So we're right back around to the talent issue. It's expensive for them to go and to bring somebody new in. It's
Yeah.
going to cost you less money, time, and effort to keep them than to replace them.
You got
That's
it.
the point of that whole rant.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it best, right? Because we went from, hey, here it is to this is how it's done to right back full circle to look, man, it's
Yeah,
really tough out there to find good people. When you find them, you want to retain them,
you
you know?
do. You do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember, and I might have said this in a previous episode, back in '03, I had changed, still within the same industry, but I changed companies and I started working for a lot of the offshoring companies. And I remember my first trip over to India, there was a survey that I was made aware of that was done. And it was like 20,000 or 50,000, some huge survey. And it was for the IT professionals in India based on the offshoring model. And they said, what is um, your top reason for staying in the company you're staying in? And they got all the things and they took the top five based on the responses.
Yeah.
Number five was money. What came one through four, and I'm going to mess up the order, but what came one through four was the ability to learn, the ability to be a team player, um, help a client directly, be recognized for for a good job. All
Mhm.
that stuff came before money. And
Yeah.
this was 20 years ago. Didn't
Yeah.
change. Well, maybe it did change because people are more into the money now, but it tells you people want the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes, you need money, you got to pay the bills. I get it. But people want more. They want to be recognized. They're not a robot.
Yeah.
They want the
Exactly.
recognition, the opportunity to learn, to do, to help others.
Yep.
That leads into keeping the talent.
You got it, man. Yep. What a great episode.
Yeah.
This is a great conversation as always. We always find a way to come up with something to talk about that really helps
Yeah.
people, whether you're working for a company or you are the owner.
Hmm.
I love the fact that
Yeah.
we can really, help people and
Yeah.
give good insights on what, can help companies and people, you know. Thanks again for your
Wow.
knowledge and your expertise, you know.
Yeah.
Again, here we are in our 38th episode, I think it is.
Wow.
38th or 39th. Yeah, we're getting there, right?
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
as we finish up here and wrap up, rainy weather out there, weekend's coming, and hope you enjoy the weekend and
You too.
that Friday at 4 because
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
it's 4 o'clock somewhere. I
Love
love
it.
that phrase. It really just sets the tone. I really
Does.
like that. This is a great series that we're doing, and I really love the fact that we talk to help people.
Yeah.
410-935-6132. Chuck at QACteam.com. Steve.
It's 516-727-2294. Steve at stevekentfs.com.
There you go. Reach out to us. Like, share, comment. Reach out to
Yeah.
us if you want to get on the show, talk to us, whatever.
Hmm.
Let's do it.
We're here. We're here for
Yeah.
you.
We're here to help. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You got
Steve,
it.
thanks again for coming on.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure. You too.
Thanks
Have a,
everybody for watching who's checking us out here.
mhm.
And
Yep.
have a great rest of the day and have a great weekend. We'll talk
You
soon.
too. Thanks,
See you,
everyone.
buddy.
Take
See
care.
you, man.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.